Good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael Cullen with the CRG Global Theme in Copenhagen. I'm here with Camille Danat, and we are very eager to have this presentation today, which is the third presentation and third and last of the webinars on the Fair Financing Toolkit.
Hi, everyone, and very welcome to this webinar. Can you please acknowledge that you see the presentation on your screen? Thank you. Perfect, thank you.
And just to give you a bit of background on the Fair Finance Toolkit and the webinars. Some of you might have heard this before, but anyway, it's good just to give a bit of background to the toolkit. It was developed by the CRG Global Theme together with the Child Poverty Global Theme in 2016, and from early 2017 it was presented for piloting, where 4 countries have taken up the pilot. Today we will hear from our colleagues in Zimbabwe, who will give us insight into their experiences in using the toolkit, particularly in relation to political economy analysis. The structure of the webinar today will be a short introduction by myself, then we'll hear from our colleagues in Zimbabwe, followed by a Q&A session, and finally we will hear about the CRG AC Project Learning Tool. If and when you have questions, please post them in the chat box. We will write down the questions and we might call on you in order for you to present the question to all of us. If you're not talking, please be on mute, but it sounds like everyone is on mute just now.
Hi, Lisa. Yes, we have started. Can you hear us when we talk?
Good. It seems most people can hear us, but there's also some who've had some issues. Of course, it doesn't give any meaning to explain what to do if you can't hear us, but we will continue with the webinar. In recent years, political economy analysis has gained a lot of interest. Many parties have developed their own tools for conducting political economy analysis, and there are several different definitions. One of those that I like is the one that you see on the screen now, which is from the OECD. Political economy analysis is concerned with the interaction of political and economic processes in a society, the distribution of power and wealth between different groups and individuals, and the processes that create, sustain, and transform these relationships over time. Now, it's a very broad definition, and when we look into PEA definitions, they are generally quite broad and gives us a lot of room to work with different elements of political economy analysis. In relation to the work in Save the Children, the Fair Financing Toolkit and political economy analysis works on all 3 guarantees of the Fair Financing campaign. It can look at both increased national and international revenues, how they're collected and spent. It can look at cost barriers to services, and it can look at minimum financial security for all children. In the first 2 webinars, we looked at assessment of cost barriers to accessing services and equity budget analysis. Now, these 2 elements are something that could support a political economy analysis. We do not need to do them in relation to a political economy analysis, but there are certainly good options for being more concrete in what we want to review. The purpose of this toolkit is to make sure that our staff members have adequate guidance on the meaning of political economy analysis within the context of public finance and budgeting for the realizations of children's rights. So we have a specific focus on public finance and budgeting in our toolkit. Some definitions of political economy analysis will be broader than this, but we have tried to focus more on this area of public finance and budgeting. It also looks at how can we use the results of a political economy analysis in advocacy, campaigning and programming in order to ensure equitable, effective and sustainable public investments for all children. Now here's a definition that we use in the toolkit. We focus on, or we say that the PEA, or Public Finance and Budgeting, is defined as applied investigation of institutional dynamics. Now, I think just dwelling or focusing slightly on applied investigation. So what we try to do is to actually go in and investigate how do we see political economy interests playing out in relation to allocation of resources. That's also the work that we'll hear more about from our colleagues in Zimbabwe quite soon. In relation to what we talked about in the last webinar about equity budget analysis, the PEA looks not only at economical budgeting, but also the politics of it. So that's the extra dimension that we add on. Because it's such a wide area, we can try to look at different sorts of PEA in order to define it more clearly. One option is to look at different geographical focuses of the PEA. There's a regional, international focus, where we can look at how we work with regional bodies, but also look at commonalities within certain areas. There's the national, with a focus on a range of macro-level political economy variables, or also often quite broad in focus. There's the subnational, where we look at districts or provinces within a country and the power relationship between the nation and the subnational level. And institutionally, where we look at a given institution and try to analyze how interest defines the priorities that they have. We often also focus on one or few sectors, for example, education, health, or child protection. We might also have a focus within a certain program, child-focused program, or we could have a focus on more issue-specific or problem-driven PEAs. What we've done most of so far, and also what we'll hear from Zimbabwe later today, is a focus at the national and subnational level, and also on 1 to 2 sectors. That's quite often that is what we will choose to do in Save the Children because of our resources that we have, but also because those are the areas that are often most relevant for children and where we can create good synergies with existing programming. A number of areas are mentioned in the Fair Financing Toolkit, but I would like to take out just a few that we focus on in relation to the PEA part of the toolkit. That is analysis of revenue. How is revenue structured for the unit or the country that we look at? What's the balance between tax revenue, non-tax revenue, ODA, grants, loans, for example, extractive industries. So we try to look at the income side of the political economy and understand why the income side is structured as it is and what that means for prioritization. We also look at expenditure. For example, intergovernmental transfers to subnational governments. It could also be transfers to specific survey areas such as the child capitation grant. We look at sector allocations and we look at child-focused services. Now there's a question here from Claire saying, what is being defined as extractive industries? Good question. I think what we would normally look at is something like oil or mining revenues. It could also be lumber, timber industries, but something that takes natural resources out of the economy. Why it's interesting because it can often be significant revenue for the government, and because there's often a lot of politics around extractive industries in how it's taxed and who benefits from the taxation or non-taxation of the resources that a country has. So I'm not sure we have a very strong definition of extractive industries, but it allows us to look at specific areas that can generate significant tax revenue for our country. We have one more question I'll take. I think maybe if there are more questions, we might just wait with those until the QA session. But John asked, would you also integrate analysis of subsidies? Liza asked, would you also integrate an analysis of subsidies in the expenditure? Yes, I think we could. Subsidies as such can be a more complex discussion, but we're seeing a strong move in recent years to move away from certain kinds of subsidies in developing countries and try to reprogram that into more specific grants. Now, how subsidies work varies if it's a fuel subsidy, a water subsidy, or subsidy for food. That they have different ways of operating and different impacts on how children can access their rights. But it's certainly something that we could analyze. We also have a strong focus on the process of budgeting, particularly on transparency and the options for public participation. As we've discussed in earlier webinars, transparency is really the starting point for much of our work. We need to be able to view what the basis for government decisions before we can have meaningful participation. So the whole process, to which extent are documents available, and what is our options for participating in the process. So that's often also part of our PEA. Collecting data for political economy analysis. Now there are a number of different data sources. I find one of the most important is the feedback and input from networks. When we conduct PEAs, we need to reach out to our networks, both amongst other CSOs, but also think tanks, platforms, INGOs, bilateral donors, multilateral donors, and look at what is their reading of the situation. So often our connection to networks is one of the primary sources to understand politics in the country. We can also conduct interviews and focus groups with politicians or councillors or selected civil servants. We can use the cost barrier assessment, which is in the toolkit and where we had a webinar just over a week ago, or the equity budget analysis, where we also had a webinar last week. Those are some of the options that provide input to the PEA. We mentioned three other areas or diagnostic tools that we can use to extract information. One is the public expenditure review. That's a tool that's used to assess the effectiveness and impact of public spending. They also often look at the relationship between national and subnational governments and how services are delivered. The PIFA framework, Public Expenditure and Financial Accountability, is more of a very well-defined framework that gives high-level indicators for how the public financial management systems in countries work. And finally, we have public expenditure tracking surveys, which allows us to follow the funds allocated to, example, education from when the money is prioritized until it reaches the spending unit, and look at any issues in that system. PIFA is very well defined. PETs and PRs are more flexible. They vary in design from country to country and from situation to situation. And there can also be other tools that we can use. What is interesting around PRs, PIFA and PETs is that they're normally carried out together with the government. So the Ministry of Finance or Treasury in the country are part of the assessment, and therefore they also present the assessment when it's complete and have ownership over the findings. So it can be a very good tool for both understanding the public financial management systems, but also what government agrees to the challenges might be. This is just a short introduction to the PEA toolkit, how we can use it, and some of the data sources that we look at. But in these webinars, we do have a lot of focus on the cases and where the tools have been piloted. And today we will hear from Zimbabwe, which have used the political economy analysis at a sub-national level. So please, if our colleagues from Zimbabwe would be kind enough to take over, just let us know when you want to change the slides, and we will do that for you.
Thank you so much for that clear introduction. I think we can go to the next slide. Behind the mic is Tatenda Chipindura from AC Zimbabwe. Okay, so our presentation is divided into the context, whereby we are highlighting the context of Zimbabwe, and then Rushinga district, where we did the assessment. Then we went on to look at the scope and focus of the equity budget analysis, then preliminary findings, lessons learned, and the next steps. Can you hear me clearly? Okay.
Yes, we can.
On the scope and focus of the equity budget analysis, we were looking at understanding the political, social, and economic dynamics, including how public resources are mobilized, shared, and distributed and accounted for. So for us to get information on that, our methodology, we were mainly, we did a secondary data review, participant observations in the field, key informant interviews with various stakeholders, and focus group discussion within the communities. And our sample was collected from key informant interviews from the Department of Social Welfare, the Rushinga Rural District Council, which is our main, which is the implementing partner, but it's government. So in Rushinga Rural District Council, we interviewed the Chief Executive Officer, who is the CEO, who is the head of the Rural District Council, the accountant, the auditor, the human resources, and we wanted to interview the Minister of Youth. So in Zimbabwe, if you want to work with youth, they fall under the Ministry of Youth. So that's why we interviewed the Minister of Youth. Then Education, Public Service Commission. We also had a focus group discussion with school children and men and women in the communities. Next slide, please. Okay. Then the Zimbabwe country context. Zimbabwe lies in Southern Africa, Southern African region, north of the Tropic of Capricorn, between the Limpopo and Zambezi rivers. That's the area in square meters. It has got 10 provinces, which are mentioned there, 62 administrative districts, of which Rushinga is part of the 62, 31 urban authorities comprising cities, municipalities, town councils, town boards, and 60 rural district councils. Then Rushinga again lies within the rural district, within the 60 rural district councils. Then now we had our constitution in the new constitution on the 22nd of May in 2013. We've got so many languages, of which key languages are English, Shona, and Ndebele. Taxes are a major contributor to our revenue as a country. Can go, next slide, please. Okay, so Zimbabwe, the past years was the breadbasket of the region, because we mainly depended on agriculture, but things have changed so far. Mining, not in the scale which we were years before. Then financial services, telecommunications are part of the industry. Minerals and tobacco, again, contribute to the revenue apart from the taxes. We have a serious foreign currency shortages at the moment in the country. So even if you want to come to Zimbabwe, there's a certain amount of money which you are supposed to carry outside to go to bring outside Zimbabwe, from Zimbabwe, if you are going back. So government is trying to limit the movement of foreign currency out of Zimbabwe. This has also resulted in the declining of exports, because we mainly rely on raw materials from outside the country. So for us to get the raw materials, we need foreign currency, but foreign currency shortages is type of the industry. Also, there's also a growing speculative culture within the population, whereby the US dollar is now trading on a parallel market in the street. So you find that there are certain sections in Harare whereby you find foreign currency traders trading the US dollar on a parallel market. But in Zimbabwe government, trying to ease the foreign currency shortages, they introduced what are called the bond notes. These are equivalent to the US dollar, in quotes, equivalent to the US dollar. So we are using bond notes, but the bond notes are not enough so that for the market to trade freely. Inflation rate is increasing, although we are using the multi-currency system. You find that the prices keep on changing here and there in different shops and for goods and services. Also, we're going to have our elections, presidential elections in 2018. So at the current moment, there's an election mood in Zimbabwe, even in all the districts where we operate in, whereby the different political parties will be campaigning. They are setting up structures, election structures, and etc., etc. Can we have the next slide, please? Also have a depressed business investor confidence. So in situations where, in our context, generally you have a lack of investor confidence, and also the political polarization makes political parties to sought support of labor and industry with contrasting and often contradicting policies and promises, making it more difficult for industry to continue operating viably. Also, there's a reluctance of international donor community to resume donor support due to unstable political situation. Donors have significantly reduced. External support such as from IMF, EU was necessary to relieve the economy of the pressure from external obligations. Also, we're not spared again by the impact of the HIV and AIDS. In all the communities, even the Rushinga district was not spared. The political and economic crisis that characterized the economy between year 2000 and 2000 nearly halved our country's GDP. This raised poverty rates to very high rates and left about a fifth of the population in extreme poverty. That economic situation from about 10 to 15 years back affected the health, education, and other basic services, and they deteriorated. So we were in a process of trying to rebuild all those areas and sectors. Next slide, please. A length isolation from the international community, restricted aid flows, and so a build-up of areas to multilateral and bilateral partners. So, as you know, Zimbabwe has been under some sanctions in courts for a long time. So this had an effect in our economy. But generally, on a positive note, Zimbabwe has an enormous potential given its generous endowment of natural resources, existing stock of public infrastructure, and comparatively skilled human resources. Realizing this will require prompt action to correct fiscal policies, restabilize the monetary system, and resolve areas to international lenders that would allow for resumption of development financing. It will also require the renewal of capacity in the public sector and investment reforms. So this is generally for the Zimbabwe as a country. Can go to the next slide, please. Then Rushinga district. The district is mainly agro-based but prone to drought because of its temperatures. Generally, the temperatures range between 35 36 degrees, so that those kind of temperatures, they are not good for agriculture, because Zimbabwe, our main staple is maize. Rushinga is maize. So Rushinga depends mostly on small grains, which include sorghum, rapoko. Those are drought-resistant crops. The major cash crop which was being which Rushinga mainly depended on, which is cotton, is the cotton price has fallen in locally. The price of cotton has fallen locally, so the farmers have lost confidence in the crop and are no longer farming cotton. We have got also some little sections where gold panning is being done in the district. Although yes, it's bringing some income, but there's the income is just little, just to sustain the family, not for long. Rushinga has got a lot of small livestock, which include goats, which are mainly source of income for the communities. However, lack of proper farmer markets have left the farmers vulnerable to manipulation by buyers and hence sell their goats or cattle below the market value. Find that just to give for example, the price for goats in Rushinga range between $15 to around $25. But if you compare in other districts, the prices for the same goats range between $40 to $50. And the cattle, they range between $150 to $300, but in other districts it's $400 and above. Generally, the average distance traveled to clinics, hospitals, schools range between 10 to 17 kilometers. Access to water due to the droughts is a major problem across all the wards, and borehole density is too low. There are no major dams in the district. Thus, both livestock and people are depending on borehole water, which is also very scarce. Next slide, please. These are the findings for the PA in Rushinga. So under investment in children in the district, it comes in 3 levels. That is the family support. However, it's only done for education, but it's very low, whereby the families just contribute their livestock towards education of the children. But you find that when you go to the schools, there are a lot of school dropouts which are related to non-payment of fees. Also, the government, local and national level investment in infrastructure development, and it was noticed that for the past 5 years, government grants have been scarce. Government has been trying to support the local community, but the shortage of funds within government, and it has also affected the communities in terms of these grants. For example, in education, there was the basic education assistance module, which was supporting school children in terms of education. But at the moment, government has no capacity to support that sector. So you find a lot of school dropouts and all that which is associated. Then we also have development partners and international NGOs and local NGOs in the district that support. Support mainly comes from Save the Children. There's World Vision. There's Save the Children is mainly in health and CRG, child protection, then education. Then World Vision again is in education and livelihoods. Comfort mainly supporting the education sector, and Capenham Trust. Then in terms of understanding the role of council, generally the understanding of the role of council across the district from communities, children and teachers is very low. They don't have that much understanding from evidence we gathered from the communities. And then we have junior councillors in the communities. Junior councillors are part of the children. I can say we initiated the formation of the junior councillors in Rushinga district. So these are at schools. They are responsible just to cater for the challenges of school children at school level. But however, there is appreciation of the role of the junior counselor, which the junior counselors plays in advancing the development issues. The teachers and counselors understand the role of the junior counselor. But if you go to the communities and the children at the school, there's a bit of some limited understanding. This is mainly because of lack of continued support of that structure at school level. Next slide, please. Then in terms of sources of revenue for Rushinga district, the main sources of revenue for Rushinga district are levies, licenses, rates, rent, and specific levies at communal level, which are cattle levy, beer levy. The district is also trying to implement innovative financing through cattle pen flattening and filling station. But so if you look at this source of revenue, if you compare with the economy of Zimbabwe, you find that the council charges about $20 for a shop license, but if you go to the shop is empty. So that the shopkeeper or the owner of the shop can go for nearly 7 months without paying any levy to council, just because they don't have anything to sell. So impact of the poor for dwindling resources. Trends in annual total revenue for Rushinga District Council has been on the decrease for the past 5 years. This year, the situation is even worse. As such, the council has backlogs in terms of its recurrent obligations. This has impacted on the lives of the marginalized, as the council fails to provide the necessary basic service delivery in the district, such as water, adequate health, education facilities, amongst others. In terms of innovative financing, the majority of schools in the district have resorted to carrying out projects to hike up their revenue. They get support, to support so that they support their development initiative at schools. Some of the projects at school level which we have noted piggery and chicken rearing. Next slide, please. Then in terms of platforms for citizen engagement and child participation, the platforms for citizen engagement are there through the village, at what level we've got to village development committees, village assembly, ward development committees, ward assembly, and we've got also budget consultative meetings. However, participation of citizens in the council development process is not uniform across the district. There are some wards in the district where participation is effective and others where it is not, and people are not engaged. For example, if you find in an area where the councillor is in the budget committee at council level, that area knowledge in terms of the budget process is very high. But generally across the district, most councillors are not in the budget committee, so knowledge in terms of and participation in terms of budgets is very limited. Evidence from the communities showed that children are not consulted during the budget consultation. So even children are consulted, and we've got also a structure called the School Development Committee. This structure is comprised of the community members, men and women, who are there to support whatever development activity at school level. But our discussions with children show that children are not consulted even in terms of development at school level. But we find that children have got bright ideas. For example, we were asking them, why do you want to be consulted? Can you give us reasons? They were giving us reasons like, instead of them building a tuck shop at our school, we might need windows, so that it will make our learning processes during winter easier, because you can't learn in winter. The children will be feeling cold the whole winter period. So they're giving those kind of examples, which will show you in detail in the narrative, the final narrative report. The budget stage with more citizen engagement. Across the budget phase, the people are mainly involved during the formulation and to a lesser extent implementation stage. There's no room for improvement. So can we have next slide, please? Power dynamics in terms of the resource allocation. There are no cases of having some individuals and groups exerting more influence and power and influence the decision making in their favor. Program and resources allocation is free from power dynamics but purely fair and with consensus. This is what we got. But we also thought further than this, and in Rushinga there's only one political party, the councillors come from one political party, so we thought that this might have contributed to less arguments within in terms of resource allocation and the power dynamics. Prevalence of corruption and rent seeking. This was only noted in cattle marketing through lack of support from the Zimbabwe Republic Police and other government departments. That's where corruption manifests. This has resulted in the dwindling of cattle levy in the district. So in some cases, instead of cattle instead of marketing cattle in a formal market, people are smuggling cattle out of the district, and they're also doing this in partnership with those in authority. So that's where we can see part of the corruption in the district. This was also confirmed by all the stakeholders, including council itself. Right? Strict adherence to budget calendar. Rushinga Rural District Council follows religiously the budget calendar, and the activities are done according to plan and the period. This was also evidenced within the communities. Okay, next slide, please. I was looking at the comment on my left there. Okay. Time as disbursement of resources. Due to low levels of resources, the council raises. There is a general trend that disbursements are not made according to the projected timeline for the activity, but according to availability of resources. So you find that the budget it's a budget in quotes. There's no money. The council just tries to budget in the hope that if they pay the taxes, if the businessmen pays the rates, the licenses, they will be able to raise the money. And also if they get their allocation from government, they also that's how they make they come up with their budget. But I find that money doesn't come from government, and all that those taxes and levies are not even paid. So for council to discharge its duties, it's kind of a challenge. Then if you look at the audit process, the council does both internal and external audit religiously, because they've got an internal auditor and there's an external audit. Even if you look at their audit documents, they have got all the audit documents from the previous years, and the audit reports are also there. There are also the reports are presented to the full council, where the public have an opportunity to interact with the audit report. However, the interest of communities on the audit report is low. You find that even when they come to present the audit report, no communities do not attend to those. It's only councillors who will be in that full council meeting, but the other community members do not attend. Then okay, I think that's a repetition. Okay, I'll pick on that point, which is written. However, councillors and understand their roles and responsibilities. The challenge is they hardly receive refresher courses in case of new developments around local governance issues. So you find that even if the councillors go into that full council meeting and the audit report or even the budget is presented to them, they lack that critical analysis of interpreting or even following up the budget. They'll be just seated in the meeting, and the budget will be passed, but they don't have that other critical eye to look into the budget. Let's have the next slide, please. Okay. We have also noted that Rushinga district is still a patriarchal society whereby the participation of women at various levels is very limited. It's a district which still has got a lot of culture issues. This affects the participation of women in various levels. So find that even budget consultation, women do not participate fully. It was also evident when we were doing the focus group discussion. We ended up asking them, why are the women so quiet? And this is when it came out. Almost all the focus group discussions we had in the district, the participation of women was very limited. Can you have the next point, next slide, please? Also, we find that drug abuse is rampant and sexually transmitted infections are high. So, rural health center level statistics also have shown an increase in terms of the STIs among youths. Then drug abuse is rampant. If you look at areas which are border Zimbabwe and Mozambique, because the Rushinga district it's border Zimbabwe and Mozambique, they get those cheap alcoholic stuff. They cost mainly around 20 cents, which is a bottle, but it's really affecting the youth. Then teenage pregnancy resulting in school dropouts and early marriage is a major challenge in Rushinga. If you look at some of even on one net, Rushinga is one of the districts we targeted in terms of child marriages, because they are very high in Rushinga. And we was also noted a change in the way this is happening. Previously, there were intergenerational marriages, but now you find that children in school, there are more cases are child marriages, which are happening. Some are out of school, some are in school, but you find that most cases are child marriages, which means that focus should change from previously whereby people were just focusing on giving messages in terms of those intergenerational sex. Children are generally not aware of the existence of the council and its mandate. However, all the junior councillors interviewed had a basic knowledge of the mandate of the council, since they were once inducted and inaugurated at the council offices. Children are not involved in school development processes, either are they consulted during the planning meetings, budget preparations, and consultations. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. There are no junior STCs at all the secondary schools visited, an indication that schools are ignorant of the need to include children in school development. Some junior councils had in-depth knowledge of the council and highlighted instances where they had noticed council vehicles repairing damaged roads, drilling, and sinking boreholes. Besides the junior councillors who are present at the schools, there are no other child-led structures within the district. Teachers interviewed revealed that they had not been consulted by council for any council processes, including budget consultations. Teachers expressed ignorance of the budget consultations that should be done in their communities, an indication that council hardly take citizen participation seriously. Council is not remitting any monies to council schools, despite the fact that they have an obligation to do so. Can we have the next slide, please? schools are not involved in council planning and budgeting processes. Some schools requested Save the Children conduct trainings on budget so that the headmasters and SDCs know about budgets and how to involve children. Junior councillors raised the issue of birth certificate since most children are failing to participate in sports. At one school, 15 children were disqualified to participate in sports since they did not have birth certificates. Teachers are key stakeholders in community development. Their absence in budget consultations speak volumes speak volumes. Okay, sorry for that type of error. Councils seem not to value wider consultations. If these are done, they are either politicized and only a few community members are consulted. Children expressed willingness to participate in any development taking place in their communities. Children were surprised to be informed that the council has an obligation by law to consult all citizens during budget and consultations and other processes. Can you have the next slide, please? Okay, then on the lessons learned and next steps, there's need to sensitize the community on the role which children should play in influencing child development issues, and also sensitize them on the role of the junior councillors. There's also need to increase the scope of the training which the junior councillors are given during orientation to include other aspects of leadership and processes which will allow them to carry out their work effectively. There is need to lobby for more support from central government to support education and health development at the district. There is also need to ensure that e-government has been enhanced in the district so that public documents can be accessed even on websites. Because in Zimbabwe, there is the technology penetration in terms of the mobile phones, it's quite high. So we find that most children are even having owning those mobile the mobile devices which can access internet and the like. So I think this is a good way forward. There is need to create and strengthen the platforms which allow for children, women, non-governmental organization participation in the governance issues in the district. So you find that even in the budget consultations, the non-governmental organizations are not involved, and they don't even provide ideas in terms of how the budget should be crafted. But there's also we need multi-stakeholder engagement. Again, it's a related point which I was indicating just now. Can we have the next slide, please? So, in terms of the early marriages, we need. Okay, I'm looking at that comments. I think I'll respond to it when I'm done. How do these assessments results feed into your other thematic programs in their engagement with governmental and community organizations? Okay. Support the setting up of CPCs at school level and community level. Advocate for unfreezing of teachers' posts, because at the current moment, all the teachers positions have been frozen. So you find that the shortage of teachers within the district. So of trained teachers in the district. At the moment, we can only find those teachers who are not yet fully trained, who are in many schools, and also specialized teachers, like for example for building, technical graphics, etc. They are not available in the district. Support setting up of the accountability mechanisms which are functional, because at the moment in the district there are no accountability mechanisms. Also need to support children education through the provision of furniture, renovation of classrooms, school fees, etc. Cases of intergenerational sex are very low. Okay, I've already discussed about that point. The national level, generally low investment in children. At national level, there's need for advocacy to improve public investments in children, particularly given the fact that children are hardly consulted in the whole budget cycle. Need for institutionalization of child rights and investments in children, expand the revenue source, capacity building of council on how to expand the revenue source, strengthen the capacity of councillors to analyze and interpret budgets. Can we have the next slide? Okay, it's now a question and answer discussion. So thank you. That's all we have from Zimbabwe country office.
Thank you so much for your very interesting presentation. I think what we heard about now was a local level PEA that focused on Rushinga district, but expanded into several sectors. We're looking both at education, we talk about child protection, there's also reaching out to something that's much broader like livelihoods. I think we see several questions coming in on the chat line. Please, you're welcome to share more questions, everyone who's on the call. I think from the presentation, some of my takeaway is that it showed a very difficult political situation, which is compounded with a very challenging economic situation, both at national and district level. We see you explained how production has been falling recently, and there's a shortage of hard currency and high inflation growth. And all of these things, they have huge implications for children all over Zimbabwe. And I think particularly as we see central government transfers are insufficient and unreliable, local authorities are looking for other ways to kind of fill the gap. You mentioned certain sorts of innovative financing, trying to raise revenue, but I think it's also fair to say that they're reaching out to families to try to take over some of the responsibility for funding essential services to children. So really a very, very challenging context. Now, I have one question before we go to those in the chat box, and it goes back to what you started with on methodology. Could you explain a bit more about how you collected data for the PA? Who did you talk to? When did you talk to them? And how did you get all the information that you're now presenting?
Okay, if I'm hearing your question correctly, you want me to explain how we collected the data, which stakeholders did we see, how did we talk to them, and the like?
Yes, please. A bit more about how you approached the PEA, who you talked to, collected information. So yes.
Okay. It was highlighted in my second slide. Okay, let me repeat again. What we did is we relied on secondary data review. Secondary data review was mainly focusing was at Rushinga district, whereby we reviewed all the budget documents from the previous years, about 3 years back, the audit reports again from the previous years, and all those other evidence of community consultation, budget consultations. It was also reviewed all the files, the minutes from the communities where the councillors go and do the consultations. All that information we reviewed it at council level. And we also reviewed national level PEA reports. We did the secondary data review for that. Then we interviewed communities. At community level, we interviewed men and women. We mainly our selection was gender biased, whereby if we invite for an interview 6 men, we needed again 6 women. So that was the general approach we used. And in schools again, we were doing the same. That is for secondary school children from Form 1 up to Upper 6. Upper 6, that's Form 6 in Zimbabwe. We did a focus group discussion with those children. And at district level, we interviewed at the rural district council, we interviewed the chief executive officer, who is the head of council, the human resources head, the auditor, the accountant, and the social services person at council level. Then we interviewed the Department of Social Welfare person at district level, who is not a council, who is not a rural district council employee. It's for under the social welfare. Then we interviewed the education department. We also interviewed the. Let me just check. But I've indicated all the stakeholders interviewed on the first slide. So did I answer you correctly, or I should add on some more information?
Thanks for this, Tatenda. I will proceed now with the other questions in the chat box. There was first a comment from Yusuf Ali around the challenges in conducting budget implementation monitoring. I'm not sure, Yusuf, if you have a specific question or if you have an experience you'd like to share on this subject.
Sorry, can you come again on the last part?
I'm talking to Yusuf Ali. I'm not sure if he's still with us. Around his commenting on the challenges in implementing budget implementation monitoring. I'm not sure if Yusuf had a specific comment on this. If not, I will move on to the next question. No? Okay. Then we had a question from Mulu on the following. How do these assessment results feed into other thematic programs in their engagement with governmental and community organizations? Tatenda, you want to attempt to provide an answer?
Okay, I'm also looking at question from Camille. Did the need for PA at district levels stem from any specific program?
Tatenda, sorry, we are managing the question and answer in the chat box. There's a question from Mulu on how you use the assessment results to feed into other thematic programs and their engagement with governmental and community organizations.
Okay, I thought those two questions were the same. Okay, just responding to the first question, Save the Children in Zimbabwe has got, if you look at the assessment results, under child protection, we've got all those, we're implementing activities which are related to all the challenges which were indicated in the assessment. For example, under child protection in CRG, the issues to do with the junior counselors, the issues to do with the early marriages, the issues to do with the absence of structures and the community level child protection structures. All that is our mandate as Save the Children, to make sure that we engage with government and make sure to find out, to see how best we can address those issues, because at the moment we are short of resources to fully implement the activities under the child protection CRG. For example, the junior counselors, we just went and set up the structure at district level, but you find that that structure is to fully function. They need constant reminder training of their roles and responsibilities. And some of the junior counselors are now moving out of for example, in primary schools, they go to secondary schools. There's a gap which we need to fill up that gap so that that structure will continue at school level. And if you look at education, all the challenges related to education, which are shortages of textbooks, the issues to do with school fees, with BIM collapsing in Zimbabwe, which was supporting most children in terms of the payment of school fees. and all the social protection measures which government was spearheading, again, they're very limited at the moment. So we need a combination whereby we engage government and see again various partners, other partners, the donor community, so that they can support us in terms of trying to come up with best activities which might cater for the district. And if you look at the livelihoods issues, the poverty levels in the district are very high, and also except the children. Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have a strong livelihoods project in Zimbabwe, which is catering only responding to emergencies. Like what one presenter highlighted, Zimbabwe is in a bit of some complex situation whereby you don't have programs which are you can't talk of sustainability issues at the moment, because there are a lot of changes within Zimbabwe. So in terms of education, that's how we come in. And all if you look at health and nutrition at the moment, we're coming from a drought last year. So there are a lot of nutrition, there are a lot of health issues which the children or even the communities, even the key stakeholders were highlighting. So all of these, they fit into our thematic areas as Save the Children. But the challenge which I can notice at country level is the budget to ensure that we implement all those recommendations which were given.
Thank you, Tatenda. Mulu, did Tatenda answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I was more interested on the process of learning that's happening in the country office to really translate these more general recommendations into concrete actions that the country office can respond within their budget constraints, either through existing programs or how they build it into new programs, etc. But I think that's fine. I think, thank you, Ntenda. We need to kind of discuss more about how learning would occur in the country office to really make this more concrete action steps that feed into ongoing programs and also, you know, in new program designs. But yeah, thank you. That was helpful.
Okay. I understand. I got your point. So what we're going to do after this, because we're still we're going to streamline all the activities and see the activities which the country office budget can support, and also those activities which need further support. So we had not done that process, but we'll be doing that process the following I think by the end of this week and the midweek we have something, the clear action points which are feeding directly into us.
Thanks for this, Tatenda.
I'm done.
Thank you. I had a question for you around whether the need for the PEA stemmed from any specific programming or intervention strategy that you were trying to feed in with evidence? Thank you.
Let me just read this aloud. Thanks, Tatenda, for a very interesting presentation. To the need for PEA district level stem from any specific programming or intervention strategy. How will you prioritize the findings? If I'm reading this correctly, if I'm comprehending this correctly, I think, is it not the same question as the question from Molu?
I guess so to some extent, but I wanted to find out if you had a specific focus in mind before you went on to carry out the PEA analysis at district level, or you wanted to just gather broad-based PEA-related information for the Ruchinga district?
We had, because we have been implementing the child rights governance and the child protection and child rights governance project in Lushinga. But at the moment, we wanted to sort of like come up with, to streamline, because we have been implementing for the project, wanted to see what are the best possible activities which we can bring out, because we wanted to see the current challenges at the moment and come up with best recommendation, not just to go and implement a project without assessing the challenges in the district. So I wanted to hear from the communities at what stage are they at the moment in terms of the of all those activities which we are assessing at the community level. So the good thing is we managed to see a lot of linkages within our thinking as country office. So that's why I said we had to sit down and just to come up with a streamlined activities which link directly to what we want to do.
Thanks, Tatenda. There is a question again from Mulu on how these assessment tools will be used or integrated with the CRSA at the country office level.
Okay, the PA assessment tools.
Yes.
There's a lot of similar. There are a lot of linkages between these tools and the CRSA at the country office level. Because if you look at all these findings, they link best to the child rights situation analysis. But only we only done one in the past. I think it's 2 years now. So if you want to do another child rights situation analysis, we'll definitely use some of the information from Lushinga district, and also we borrow or the tools from the PA.
Thanks, Tatenda. And there's a related question from Suzanne on really what's the value addition of the PEA tool as compared to the CRSA tool we have been using in the past. Michael, you want to? No. Lene, you want to maybe provide an answer on the value addition of the PEA over CRSA? Or maybe we need more reflection around the use of the PEA first?
No, maybe let me come in. Thank you so much, Camille. I think there are very strong linkages, potential linkages between the CRSA and the PEA. And in certain child rights situational analysis that I have reviewed, one of the things that might not have been so strong is actually the political economy element in the analysis. So I think this gives an opportunity to strengthen the political economy analysis in the CRSA. But it can both be something that provides input to the CRSA, but it can also be a product of program activities. So it gives us an opportunity to continuously review what is the political economy analysis and how does it inform our programming, our analysis, and how we should advocate. So definitely strong linkages that I think we can bring out more clearly as we get more familiar with the tool.
Thank you, Michael. Next, we have a question from Lene for you, Tatenda, on what information was the resource allocation to district decided based on what information? Is it population size or more development oriented indicators?
Oh, okay. So what happens is in terms of the budget cycle and resource allocation, all the councils, all the rural district councils, they do a budget consultative meeting in the community. that is around October, November of, let's say, last year. Then after they've done that, they compile every information and they submit it to their provincial, where the provincial authorities, they look at the budget and they approve or disapprove. After, if the budget is approved, they then send it to national level. So resource allocation at that point at national level is based on the budget which the council is crafted. But at times they are not given all the money which they have been expecting from national level because of various challenges. Some of these budget lines are rejected and some are accepted. So that's how the process works. So when the council does its budget, it does community consultations, and yes, it also does the budget, which is related to the district needs.
Thanks, Atenda. We have a series of questions from Sarah on the use of the PEA tool itself. Were there any findings, Tatenda, that really surprised you? Any challenges in the PEA process that you did not expect? How might the findings change the future way of working or activities? And finally, if you have any advice for other country offices who would like to conduct PEA?
Thank you for that. So, responding to the first questions, were there any findings that really surprised you? Yeah, in terms of, if you look at the budget at council level, our thinking was that when the council does its consultations, everyone, even the councillors, they had so much understanding of what happens within the budget. But we realized that council does they prepare their budget and they go with it to the communities for consultations. But most of what happens mostly is that the communities whom are consultants, they just say it's okay to almost everything within the budget, or to all the budget lines. They do not have that critical analysis. They don't have that deep analysis, that innovative thinking, which there's not that innovative thinking which happens at community level. So even if you look at the way the schools are run, the council schools, because most of the schools are owned by council. The rural health centers are owned by council, but the income which comes from those rural health centers or schools, it goes to council, but it doesn't come back. If you look at if you look at the results which came out, it doesn't go back to the center to assist the center in any other challenges which they are having at rural center level. So those are the kind of surprises which came out. And we also noted that in a council which is dominated by a single political party, power relations and those power struggles are very minimal. So decision making, it's not critical in such a setup, because if they say this is okay, everyone will say that it's okay. Then there's no, again, that critical analysis, that critical thinking at that level. Did you have any challenges in the PA process that you could not expect? Most of the challenges we expected them. Because yes, we find challenges in terms of some of the stakeholders for example, I told you Zimbabwe is in the political situation at the moment. We are going to elections next next year. So if you talk about political economy analysis, it's not a word which can it's not accepted quickly just like that, as that. So you find that there are issues even if you go to the economic level, you start you spend a lot of time trying to enlighten the community members, because there are community level political structures which are there, which take a long time for them to understand some issues which are developmental like this one, you know. So those are the kind of challenges which you can meet in a setup like ours. How might the findings change your future way of working or activities? What I've noted is most organizations, when they want to implement a project, they just look for money from donors, and even if they were implementing the same activity for the past 10 years, they don't go back to check what are the challenges, what are the current challenges at the moment, because what you think are the challenges are no longer the challenges. You see, for example, Rushinga is there was they mainly relied on cotton production, which is a cash crop which was paying at that time. But at the moment, if you go there, cotton production is very low because of the price on the national market. So there are a lot of changes which you need to first of all assess and see how best you can approach, and even all the power dynamics, like how the PA approaches the assessments. You know, it's quite an eye opener in terms of crafting up future activities for the country office, or even for a thematic area. And do you have any advice for other country offices conducting PA based on your experience? I think if we are not supposed to conduct PA, for example, let's say, for example, Save the Children, we partnered with Nango to do the PA, because Nango have got their own specialities on area of their areas of speciality. So bring them in. They will also strengthen the analysis so that it comes out. So maybe that's that's what I can advise other country offices. And also in terms of I don't know if there are any other country offices which have got, you know, Zimbabwe is very different from many countries, because there are a lot of things which are happening. So our recommendations here might not probably work for most countries. But when we come up with the report, the final report, I think we're going to highlight recommendations for, in terms of maybe carrying out this PA in other districts. You see? So you will see in the final narrative report.
Thank you so much for that insight. Maybe just a few short comments as well. The toolkit contains some advice on how to plan and conduct the PEA as well, and as I'm sure our colleagues in Zimbabwe have used this in the piloting. But it sets out a number of steps to take, and really the emphasis is on trying to define very clearly from the beginning what is it that we want to conduct research on, and try to structure the collection of primary and secondary data in order to answer those questions. I know this is quite basic, but I think it's always something that's very good to do, to make sure that we define very clearly what it is that we want to investigate, and make sure that the research methodology can lead to that result, particularly when it comes to collecting the secondary data that we can get, but also in planning the collection of primary data, for example, through discussions or focus group interviews. So that's just another few words of advice on how to plan the PEA. Camille, should we go to the next question?
There is no more question. There is a last question from Lisa. Is there a plan to progressively engage other work streams, offices on applying the PEA tool? Leno has left, so you are...
Thank you so much, Camille. We are now in the process of piloting the PEA tool. After that, we will take the advice from the pilot and might come up with a last update of the toolkit based on the pilots. I've noted that there's a number of offices that are interested in using the fair financing toolkit, including the PEA tool. So in that regard, there will be a plan to engage with other offices on this. I do not have a complete list saying these are the countries that will use the PEA in the coming period, but it's certainly something that could be interesting to know how we can assist the countries that are conducting PEAs. I've also noted from some of our previous discussions that we might benefit from getting PEA to be a more explicit part of the child rights situational analysis. That could also be a way to apply the PEA tool.
There's also a number of functions such as advocacy and campaigning who could benefit from having a PEA done at country level. Very well. If there are no more questions, then we will briefly go through the last slides of our webinar, of our presentation around the learning strategy methodologies that we have put in place to document and reflect on the learning and on the application of the fair finance analysis tools. So we have put forward a number of tools to support project teams to document and share knowledge on the application of the fair finance analysis tools, and with the aim to improve and enhance the toolkit that was developed and finalize the toolkit based on a pilot learning. At the onset of the fair finance analysis project, we have administered a fair finance analysis pre-assessment questionnaire to the project participants, and this was with the aim to judge knowledge, competencies, and confidence in fair financing analysis. And you have some of the pre-assessment results here. It was administered to 22 project participants. We got 17 responses. Overall, knowledge on fair finance guarantee of the Every Last Child campaign was good. However, there was limited confidence in conducting or coordinating fair finance analysis. The knowledge of political economy as development concept was mixed. The involvement in political economy analysis was very limited. And there was more knowledge on economic and political interests, incentives, and structural issues influencing the way public resources are mobilized, allocated, and utilized. This questionnaire will be administered at the end of the pilot phase to assess any positive changes in terms of those levels of confidence, knowledge, and overall involvement in using the toolkit. We have just to make sure we document day-to-day learning and feedback on the use of the tools. We have set forth a very simple project journal tool, to make sure we document as the pilots are ongoing and the tools are used, any challenges, any successes that can feed into the final toolkit version. We have also set forth feedback forms to be administered to training, workshop, interview, survey, or discussion participants. So that's stakeholders from whether it's Save the Children's partners or our informants, to obtain their feedback on the organization, the content, and the results of the analysis activity carried out. This will offer us an additional insight into the competencies, knowledge, and confidence of our staff and partners conducting the analysis work. And finally, we are very much encouraging country offices who will use those tools to conduct lessons learned workshop or a small lessons learned session at the end of the analysis work to make sure they reflect on the analysis work, the quality and the use of the findings, and with the aim to improve subsequent analysis work. So this learning methodologies and tools. They are available. Should you be interested, please contact me and I can forward you the tools that we have developed. On that note, thank you very much to all those who participated in this webinar today. Thank you to Michael, our facilitator. Thank you so much to the Zimbabwe country office, Tatenda and Gloria, for the excellent presentation you have given us today. Thank you to the CRG Global Team for their ongoing support in organizing these webinars. This was the last webinar on the Fair Finance Analysis Toolkit, and we're very happy that the participation was very broad and the interest and the questions that followed the presentations were high and fruitful. So thank you very much to all those who participated. And we look forward to sharing the findings of the pilot phase and then finalizing the toolkit together with you. And I will leave the floor to Michael for some final words of wisdom.
Well, I thank you so much, Camille. I will echo the thanks. Thank you to all of those who have participated. It's been so interesting being part of the process of developing, piloting the Fair Financing Toolkit. And I really hope that we can take this work forward together and to use the tools, improve our learning, how to use the tools, and really get some great results for children. So thank you so much for your time and your participation, and all the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.